everyone, and welcome to another episode of Dream Oracle for You. I am your host, Sarah, and as always, we have the lovely Biljana on the call. This is our first episode of the new year, 2026, season 3. Wow, I can't believe how far we've come with this podcast so far. Episode 46 with the wonderful Ben Hawks, and I can't wait to hear him introduce himself in just a little bit, and I can't wait to see where this conversation is gonna go. We've been scheduling this podcast for quite some time, and finally all of the stars have aligned and we are here today. Biljana, please welcome us to the new season.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. I don't know what to say because it's been a bit of a break and it's been, for me anyway, it's been crazy. It's a crazy time. Just lots of things happening, lots of strange dreams. I don't know about you, Sarah, but I've had some wacky ones lately. And been so excited to have Ben on for so long. I don't know, it's probably been over a year or so since we've started like talking about it. So yeah, hopefully we have some good chats and bring up some really good insights and some tools for people to take away as well that they can use in their own life as well, which we're always about that. So yeah, Ben, if you want to introduce yourself and we'll go from there.
Yes, of course. And first, I'd like to say what a pleasure and honor it is to be here. And I met you guys in the early days of Ley Love Down, and it's a genuine pleasure to see what you guys are doing now. 45, is this 46
Yeah.
or is this 45? This is 46 episodes in on a podcast that you guys were just talking about last time I saw you. So yeah, first of all, I just want to express how inutterably proud I am of both of you. I mean that genuinely. Absolutely brilliant. So
Thank
my
you.
name is Ben. Now you're very welcome. You're very welcome, and it is, yeah, I say it with love and authenticity. Is that higher than love? I'm not sure. We'll probably find out as we go. Sarah will probably get a message as we're talking to let us know. So I'm Ben Hawks. I'm a couple of things really. I'm an author. I wrote a book in September 2024 called Hitchhiker's Guide to the Great Awakening with my brother from another mother, Michael Dowling Fleet. And that book ultimately was a attempt, underline and bold that attempt, to give some shape and some definition to some of the terms that were being thrown around at that point. Terms like 5D, 4D, 3D, awakening, ascension, etc., etc. Mike and I were putting the finishing touches to a coaching practice at the time, and we were making an attempt internally to define those sorts of things such that we could talk about them with clients. And we did a lot of work and we just turned it into a book. It was the same week when I had brought my son home. It was the same week when Mike had lost his father. And obviously, when those two things happen, the first thing you want to do is write a book. So we wrote a book. And that came out in Jan 24. That turned into a course, as these things inevitably do, because I was a normal human being, then a slightly messed up human being. I woke up to the true nature of the world while in the queue to have a COVID vaccine, while working at a COVID vaccination center. So that was a pretty kind of sheep dip ice bath awakening, which was no doubt divine intervention. I then went through the kind of painful awakening process that everybody does. It was the first couple of months after we brought our first daughter home. This was back in 2021. And the Amazon algorithm woke me up, basically. Went from the red pill revolution to David Icke to a conspiracy so monstrous through all of these things. And as most people do, I got caught in the kind of awake frequency trap between fear and shame and doom and pride at these kind of new bits of knowledge and information and habits I had. I was taken under the wing of a very smart man called Kern Frost at the Council for Human Development, who did something called neuropathic mental acceleration. I gave him a vast amount of money, which I don't regret. And he sat with me for 3 hours over 3 months every week and basically dissected and took apart all of my belief systems. which was well needed and is probably something everyone's going to have to go through at some point. After that, I started a podcast to keep it going. Well, of course, that's inevitably what people do. Some people do it well, like you guys.
Oh.
Some people don't, like me. But we did 100 episodes of that, just me and Kern talking absolute rubbish. And episode 1 is still the most popular episode. It remains the worst episode as well, but there it is. After about a year of that, I decided that I'd like to speak to interesting human beings. The first person I ever spoke to was Tom Luongo, Luongo, who remains one of the best geopolitical and economic commentators, especially on what's going on right now in the financial system. I spoke to people like Jason Noble from the Republic of England, AJ Roberts, Nick Hudson. I've got Sarah behind me. Sarah in her garden. And Sarah's back now.
Sorry, I didn't realize that would happen
No,
when I
it's
turned off my
great.
camera, so that's going to be
I've got
interesting.
this whole drag dream catcher deal behind me, and then suddenly it was Sarah Greening. Outstanding. So yeah, I did that for a while, and then got into the Ley Love Down piece after I interviewed Rachel Vaughan, one of the bravest humans I know. When I realized, well, I came to the realization that what we were going through was a battle between good and evil, fought, I've realized, largely within ourselves. And I figured if we were in a battle for good and evil, I would have to understand what evil looked like. And there's no better way to understand what evil looks like than speak to someone who has seen it with their own eyes and felt it with their own heart, and successfully said, no, Satan, you will not take me today, which is what dear Rachel did. So after that, I kind of thought, well, how can I serve? And that's where Ley Love Down came from. You guys have lived that with me. Obviously, time and kind of obligations and these sorts of things mitigated against me taking further part in that, but it's been wonderful to see that build. Then decided to write the book. From that came the platform Awakened Life Foundations, from which has come the platform Awakened Life Community. So now ultimately we've got to a position where in the third dimension, I'm a business owner and a business person. I've got businesses in finance, tax, tech, etc., etc. But in the fourth and fifth dimension, my mission ultimately is, for what it is to open up space for people to have conversations that they may not be able to have had before. I'm a passionate believer in that we have a problem, and that problem is blackpilling. That problem is the awake frequency trap. I think everyone can feel it in the community, if we're going to give it that title, that there is a big glut of humans who are stuck, who are in shame at potentially having taken the jibby jab, or their kids haven't taken the jibby jab. They're in fear of the globalists and the power of these massive structures. They are kind of apathetic because what can we do? Or at worst, they might have an element of pride to them because, I didn't take the jab, and normies and all this kind of rubbish, which we need to forget and forgive if we're going to be successful in this enterprise and in this fight, and it is a fight. So yeah, that's kind of where I am now. I want to replay my journey to people such as it is, which isn't special. It might be more interesting because it involves direct attacks from evil, friends and loved ones being possessed, and working with people to heal timelines and past lives and all this kind of crazy stuff. But I'm a big believer that you are gifted and given what you require for your role. And if I've been given an ascension awakening, by the way, I've not ascended, that I've not awakened. No one has. If anyone tells you that they have and they have access to absolute knowledge, turn off the podcast, run away from them, because no one knows what the hell is going on. We're all just making it up as we go along and approximating theories and solid stuff to hang on to. And my role really is to give people an insight into what I've been through, such that they can understand what they've been through and what they are going through. We are never in a position of hierarchy. No one is doing better than anyone else. No one is better than anyone else. We are simply all on the same journey, and some of us are slightly ahead on that road. And our job isn't to turn around and go, yeah, I'm a bit better than you. I know more. I meditate more than you, man. I meditate the hell out of life every day. That's not our job. Our job is to simply go, right, okay, I've been here before and I know the way. take me by the hand. Let's go. So yeah, I'm here. As I say, I'm passionate about the black pill problem, and I'm passionate about being a bridge between the worlds. And I think that's what a lot of people lose as you go into the spiritual community and you start kind of meditating and walking around barefoot and grounding and stuff. None of which I'm dissing, by the way. All of that's valuable. We do lose track with, having to pay the mortgage and bring up the kids and, do the school run and these sorts of things. And I'm a massive advocate and passionate believer that we have to bring the spiritual into everyday life, and we have to bridge between the 3 and the 4 and the 5D if this whole thing is going to work. Because if we suddenly disappear into meditation retreats and spiritual festivals and only do our spirituality on the weekends, then we're basically fucked. Because the two most spiritual things you can do today are to say no to power and to say I love you or smile at someone today. Most spiritual things that anyone can do today. And if everyone does that every single day, then we win. It's that simple, really. And while I've got this wonderful dream catcher thing behind me, hilariously, that's probably the most un-Ben Hawkes thing that there could be, because I believe spirituality is an everyday thing, and it's a simple thing. And it's something full of love and practicality and simplicity, etc., etc. So I don't even remember what question I'm meant to be answering, to be honest.
Who you are.
But who I am, yeah, which hopefully I've
Who are
answered.
you?
Yeah, so there you go. The Ballad of Ben Hawkes. In, I don't know, looking at the clock, about 45 minutes I've been speaking now. Who the hell knows, right?
Well, thank you for giving us a rundown of who you are, and also the connection.
Always welcome.
Yeah, and also the connection.
Literally the only thing I'm an expert on is me.
Well, yeah.
Which does it make me an egotist? Malignant narcissist?
No.
I hope not.
No.
No, I don't think so at all.
Good. So how can
Well, I
be
think
of service
that's
to
the
you today?
problem. That's the problem with the world, is we're not experts on ourselves. We're trying to learn about everything else but ourselves. So I love that.
Yeah,
You're an
100%.
expert in yourself. Yeah.
Because a lot of people are just terrified of what they find, or they will find, or they may find, which causes us to keep running forward, never looking back and never looking within. I mean, most people who are not conscious, and I don't use that as a way of articulating or exuding superiority over anyone or anything. Being conscious is basically just being totally authentic and honest in the moment, and looking at what you're doing, what you're saying, what you're thinking, and going, is that good? Is that bad? Or whatever. But if you aren't conscious, then all you're ever doing is running towards pleasure or running away from pain. And most of us are running away from pain, because that's really kind of the only option that we have, because we're stuck in the kind of materialist frequency trap of death by 1,000 cuts, debt, slavery, etc., etc. We don't have the opportunity to go, hang on, if I stopped and took a breath before shouting at my child, would that be a good thing, or B, perpetuate cycles of trauma that we've all lived through generations? And it can be as simple as that when we're tired and pissed off and angry and we've been working 8 hours a day, instead of responding to a request from literally the most important person in our lives, sorry, I say human, not person, person's a legal term, we go, how can I be of service to you, my love? Whereas most people, and I'm not saying it's superiority, because these things are forced on us, the matrix is there to keep us angry, depressed, shameful, tired, whatever. We go, what do you want? And they're like, oh, okay. And that's where it just starts again and starts again and starts again, and loops and cycles and all these kind of things. So again, what do I know? But again, everything, just like everybody else. Because, and I took someone to task for this the other day, an awake friend whose favorite phrase is, what do I know? And I'm like, dude, everything. You've just forgotten. And your job is to remember. That's what we came here for, to learn, to remember. So yeah, no one should be walking around in ignorance or willful ignorance about what it is that they know, because they know everything. They've just been caused to forget. And that's not ignorance. That's an entirely different thing. You check your Gnostic creation story. We have all been caused to forget who we are. And the minute we remember, this thing ends. And right quick, we win, because they, whoever they are, cannot stand up to the collective power of even 10% of humanity, maybe even 5, maybe even 2% of humanity, who have remembered who they are and what their true power is. They just can't stand up to it. So bring it on.
Well said. Well said, Ben.
Thanks,
Yeah.
man. I'm gonna give you some space in the conversation to allow you to ask questions. Because
That's
you know
okay.
how this shit works. You bat me on the back of the head and say go that way, and I'll go that way, and I'll not speak. I'll not stop talking
Yeah.
for 20, 25 minutes. And you
Well,
guys want to talk about dreams. Dream.
well, I like how Biljana started to actually tie everything that you've been talking about, Ben, into dreams. She didn't directly get there yet, but talking about how most people don't know themselves. And that's where dreams come in mine and Biljana's perspective, is that that's one way that you can get to know yourself better, is to be connected to dreams and to pay attention to your dreams. And before we go any further, I think it's now appropriate to just first kick off and ask you, Ben,
Mm.
what you think dreams, what are dreams to you? What do they mean to you? Or, what is your perspective on what dreams are?
Do you
Um,
dream?
Well, I guess
yeah,
that's
I
the first
do.
question too.
Yeah, I do. And I'll level with you both. I've had, I think I've had one significant dream in my entire life. Just one. Really important. Although I didn't realize it was important at the time. I realized it was important about 3 months ago, 6 months ago. And I had the dream like 20 years ago. The rest of it,
Wow.
my dreams are kind of a moot point because I almost always get attacked during them. They're almost always negative. Like if I will wake up. I had 3 nights of dreams a couple of weeks ago. Sorry, months ago. I'm not very good with time, which apparently doesn't exist. And the first one, I was in the middle of a nuclear holocaust. I remember I had to say goodbye to my family in like a 7-Eleven, and they were going down a bunker and I didn't. And then I died in a fiery way. The second was like some awful human caterpillar-esque horror. And the third, I had to watch someone I love get killed. And that was 3 in a row. And I was like, shit. And I WhatsApped my mentor and said, seriously, how the fuck do I stop this? And she was like, Ben, have you been doing your protections? I'm like, no, I haven't. So dreams for me are kind of a moot thing because I almost always see them from a negative standpoint. I almost always, if they're there, they're either whatever, or the baddies really go at me. The one significant one was my grandfather, Stanley, who I never met, who died the year I was born, who, as it turns out, has been there all the time. And I've kind of have confirmation of that myself. And this is where belief and knowing come into play, and it's really worthwhile understanding the difference between those two words, because belief, in my book, not the book, but my book, is something that you have to kind of continually justify to yourself. A belief is something that needs reinforcing. A belief is something that you need to constantly talk about. And the problem with beliefs in 2025, 2026 is they almost always become part of your identity. And then you have to really, really protect them and defend them. And that's a lot of what we're seeing in America at the moment, in the United States, where people on the left, whatever that means, with purple hair who scream a lot, I send them love. They're subject to the mind control matrix as much as we are. Their political beliefs have become part of their identity. And when your political beliefs become part of your identity, you must defend them to the death. Because unless you do, you will go through the ego death, which a lot of people equate with death anyway. And they kind of should, and it's kind of horrible. I've been through it. But yeah, knowing is something different. Knowing is, yeah, absolutely, is part of your framework of assumptions for how your world operates. My framework of assumptions of knowings are that there is something called universal God or source. It's not a man with a beard. It's a field full of love, and that this all starts from emanations from that field, and that at some point we may get to go back there. And I had a really odd one. This was a kind of, I suppose, day waking dreams is a thing for me as well. I disappear for 3 to 5 minutes while doing kind of autonomic, unconscious things. Um, a couple of weeks ago, I was washing the dishes, and I remembered being part of the monad. I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. That's been really helpful, actually, because when you're having a bad day, you're like, okay, I'm having a bad day, but I'm actually part of a field that exists of 100% love, and everything that was, is, and ever will be. And that's actually me. Okay. Maybe it's not. Maybe this complaint from a client isn't that fucking important. But the knowing around my grandfather Stanley was I was on the exercise bike. Well, you can't see it behind me. You can see his big drag hat right now. And I was watching to something by Dolores O'Cannon about guardian angels. And I realized that he'd been there all the time. And I just said to myself, Stanley, are you there? Listen, I am. And I'm kind of building this avatar of who Stanley is because never met him. But I kind of get what he would be like. And my mother's told me about him and stuff. And I was like, have you always been there? It's like, yeah, yes, I have. And I suddenly realized all the stupid things I've done, drinking and drugs and being mean to people and breaking up with girls and, being horrible and going to strip clubs and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, have you been there for everything? And he was like, yes, son, boys will be boys. And I was like, I still well up a little thinking about it because just in those so I'm not very good at maths, 4 or 5 words was just total forgiveness for everything stupid I'd ever done. It was like, yeah, I was watching you. I was watching all of it, you silly bastard. But boys will be boys. Let's move on. And that's a really good lesson for anybody, which is whatever you've done, which you think is bad, and bad and good are relative terms. And I don't mean moral relativity that allows people to, fucking do nasty things to kids and shit like that. I'm not talking about that kind of moral relativity. But stuff we do, which we damn ourselves for, that we kind of walk around never forgiving ourselves for, it's within our interests and perfectly reasonable to forgive ourselves. It is. Radical forgiveness is a really great way towards happiness and peace. And by the way, happiness is fleeting, but peace can be forever. That's a big learning that I've had. But I remember the dream that I referred back to in this experience was I was standing in a house we had, which is this tiny little council house. I grew up in London. And I remember looking to my left up these stairs, and this big, tall man just walked down the stairs, military bearing. I never saw his face, but he was wearing this blue ceremonial uniform, which I now realize was the uniform of him in a picture that we always had in the house with his OBE. He got the Order of the British Empire from King George VI. It's quite a thing, really. But he fought in 2 wars. And the first one he signed up when he was 14 to go to the Somme with the Durham Light Infantry. And he ended up as a sergeant major in the East Surreys, where he met my grandmother, which is why my mum was here, or is here, and why I'm here. But yeah, when I was thinking about this whole guardian angel thing and having a bit of a cry at the forgiveness of Stanley for all the stupid thing I'd done in my life, I remembered this dream. I was like, okay, that's been left for me. I appreciate that. You've given me confirmation. So this can turn from a belief to a knowing. And since then, he's turned up while I've been on stage doing speaking engagements. He's turned up during really horrible parts of my life, and then my grandmother, dear Nana, turned up as well. And now I can't go anywhere without these 2. It's like Star Wars for old people at the moment. The end of Return of the Jedi, you've got this exuberant Anakin Skywalker, or the new version anyway. You've got Ben, he's a bit of a fossil. You've got Yoda, I've got Nana and Stanley behind me constantly. It's absolutely crazy. God bless them. Yeah, they're just saying hello right now. Nana and Stanley say hello, guys.
Oh, hi.
Oh, thank you.
But that's probably the most significant dream I've ever had, which I firmly believe was like a little present, a little bit of treasure left in my memory banks to pop out to confirm something, which was pretty whack-a-day. The idea that you have a guardian angel, that's pretty West. And it's the kind of thing that if you're awakening, you're like, oh, I've got one. Fantastic. I've had a spiritual experience. But we should be, we should be disciplined about asking for confirmation for these things. And my mentors always said, listen, whoever it is who's talking to you, you're within your rights to ask for confirmation. If Osiris comes down from the halls of Amynti or up or whatever and goes, I am Osiris, I command you to do this. We're humans. We're sparks of the divine. We're Adamites. We can say whatever to whoever we like to. We should say, Osiris, appreciate you coming. Um, why should I believe you? Why should I have gnosis about what's happening here? There
Yeah.
shouldn't be any element of humans. We're not poor little humans. Not in any way, shape, or form. That's why, the demiurge, Aldebaoth, and the archons had to take thousands of years to reduce our consciousness such that we would forget. Because it says so in the Gospel of Thomas, I think it is. I forget the exact ones, but in the Nag Hammadi Chronicles, that they had a massive fucking issue with Adam. He was like, nah, I don't give a fuck. No, stop talking to me like that. I'll do whatever I want to do, which is why it's such a serious business, reducing our consciousness to a degree where we are docile and will go along with everything. Because the minute more than three of us say, nah, fuck that, they're done. And that's already happening anyway. And you can do that by searching any thread on Facebook that has to do with income tax and looking at the comments, you realize it's over. It's just a question of events catching up with outcomes. It's over. But yeah, for me, dreams, that I suppose you could say they are not significant for me in any way, shape, or form on a regular basis. I don't go off traveling or anything like that. Any cool shit like that. I can't fly, but I'm sure I can. I'm sure we all can. But I suppose that one thing which confirmed that one thing, that makes them pretty important to me. Plus all the horrible stuff, which frankly I could do without.
Well, I think that there's a reason that those horrible things are coming up.
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
yeah.
Shadow, all that kind of stuff. And I've had
Yeah,
to deal with
but
that recently, and it's been horrible.
I wonder if some of those experiences are actually just kind of memories. What do you feel about that? Memories of past lives and stuff.
Um, well, I think the whole nuclear holocaust stuff is a massive kind of fear packet I kept as a kid, and we've got to look at we don't got to have to do anything, but it behoves us to look at all events through multiple lenses. This is one of the things that we teach and talk about in the Awaken Life community is multidimensional analysis, that we can look at political events in the third dimension and see them as just politics, and that's just the way it goes. We can look at them in the fourth dimension and we can see them as part of the battle of good and evil that's currently manifesting itself in the third and the fourth dimensions. And then we can kind of go up and look at it in the fifth dimension and go, okay, well, I can see duality is at play here. I can see that good and evil are relative things, and they're very good teaching tools. And one person has taken their role as baddie, and one person has taken their role as goodie in order to bring out trauma in the collective consciousness that needs to come up to be healed, or whatever. So this multi-level, that's a tool which I think we should all get used to using and get familiar with and skilled with. I call it the lever when I sit with clients. Say, right, think of Top Gun, think of Maverick when he's leaving the USS Enterprise at the beginning, full military power, not that USS Enterprise if there's any sci-fi fans watching. He goes to full military power by putting forward his lever. When I sit with clients and they're like, I just can't even fucking deal with the third dimension. That's right. You're going to have to. You're going to have to. So just have a lever, go down, go back up when you need to, go to the middle, blah, blah, blah. So I think the Cold War, the reason I get into that, thinking about the Cold War, was just really some mass 50-year project to fill the collective consciousness with massive fear. That's ultimately what that was. And it caused fear and trauma within me. So is me looking at that and going through that in a dream, just all that coming up? Yeah, 100% I'm open to that. The whole human caterpillar thing. Not even going to talk about that. Jesus Christ, if you've seen that film, then you kind of know what I'm going with there, and you don't want any piece of that. To be frank, I can't see how universal source would be served by me looking at that shit. I don't know. But I mean, I've recently gone through an experience around shadow work and realizing that we are all very far from perfection. And anything that causes that trauma, that darkness, and I use that term, I don't know, shadow work for me isn't about looking at yourself and going, that bit of me is shit, that bit of me is rubbish, I've been a tit, I've been a twat, whatever. It's about sending love to the unintegrated parts of you. and then forgiving it, bringing it out, because everything has two sides. And if you're aggressive as hell and on a short temper, well, that ain't good. If you're dealing with a 4-year-old daughter, that ain't good. But also, if you have that 4-year-old daughter and you're going to be required to defend her at some point, either verbally or physically or whatever, yeah, it's really good that you have access to, a capacity, a well-ordered, controlled capacity for violence, or capacity for reaction with a loud voice and a "don't you effing dare." That's a good thing. And if we can bring out what might be seen as aggression or violence in a man and turn that into something we can put in a little toolbox and go, I might need that later, then yeah, that's good. Manipulation, the favorite of the malignant narcissists all over the world. But at times we need to be aware that we have to manipulate. That's called influence. And that's ultimately what coaching is a lot of the time. And that's what teaching is a lot of the time. It's influencing people such that they can realize their imperfections and their perfections and their power. Now, what do we call that if we're doing it from a malignant, dark standpoint? What do we call that? We call that manipulation, don't we? But it's all about intent. So yeah, 100%. Anything that brings out the shadow such that we have to look at it and understand it and integrate it and love it, quite frankly. Because when you get to a certain point in your consciousness journey, you realize that love literally, or love is all around, to quote Wet, Wet, Wet from their terrible song, which was in the soundtrack of Four Weddings and a Funeral for like 5 fucking years. And also, love is all you need, to quote Lennon and McCartney, who, may have been replaced sometime around his 22nd birthday. There's a rabbit hole that I'll gift you. But no, love is literally everything. I'm writing a course on Tara Springett's Ladders of Consciousness. She's got a great book called Stairway to Heaven, and it maps consciousness from innocence to dominance to obedience to ambition to sharing, responsibility, and love, and bliss, and full embodiment or enlightenment. And the wonderful thing about the model is it maps human evolution, not in that way. Don't believe in that. Don't believe in dinosaurs either. Dragons, if you're on Team Dragon, I'm with you. And I'm pretty sure anyone listening to this is. Well, one of the wonderful things about that model is you never lose if you keep all the good bits, you can remember all of that. So her name is Tara Springett, Tara, new word Springett, Springett. It's a great book. But once you get to a certain point, you get into love. And love is basically, you realize we're in a friendly universe. You realize that the only way of dealing with the problems of the world are to send love to everybody, especially the ones that you despise or did despise. Because once you get to love, you're like, no, I don't truly hate anybody. Everyone's acting out their own traumas. Everyone's acting out their own shadows. Even you can look at someone like Adolf Hitler, whose role in everything is not remotely clear, best I can tell. So let's keep an open mind. And I'm not kind of cheerleading for that young man. I'm just saying let's not always believe what we're told by people who win wars. In any case, he is a classic obedience guy. When you get distorted obedience, you create these massive systems of compliance to kind of mirror your obedience within, and that's ultimately what he was. And that's pretty fucking shit. But then you get obedience where someone comes out of being, violent or abusive, and they realize that their behavior is completely unacceptable, and obedience gives them a framework that they can take on and move and blah, 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 blah. So yeah, the whole thing is just a journey of working out our shadows such that we can get to a point where we've forgiven ourselves radically for what we've done, which gives us a basis of consciousness and clearness to move on. And then we can start forgiving others and sending them love. And the healing that you can do when you do that is just unbelievable. Unbelievable when you stop walking around with that hatred and that judgment for your fellow man or woman. You don't just float around going, oh, you're a serial killer. Don't worry about it. Love, all is done. You're a pedophile. Don't love. You still have to send them love because they have to work through whatever has caused them to do these abominable things. And they'll get theirs, don't get me wrong. You're not giving them a hall pass by giving them forgiveness and love. They're still going to have to fucking pay. Forgive, don't forget. I'm a big believer in that. But once we get to that point, that darkness is made manifest and shadows are made manifest and trauma is made manifest, and we have the ability to send them love, and I mean that for others and inside ourselves, and we're getting back to dreams here, perhaps this is why these horrible things were shown to me, then we're going to be in a really good position to move on. We really are. But it's difficult for people to accept that because the ego always requires a price to be paid. It always requires some sort of punishment or value to be extracted. And you can see this in, I see this in myself all the time. I'll be driving my car and there'll be someone letting somebody else into the traffic in utter humility and charity and love. Or maybe I'll see someone picking litter by the road. My ego goes, wouldn't catch me doing that. And I'm like, what? No, wouldn't catch me doing that. Doing something selfless for no gain. Fuck that. And everybody goes through these kind of internal conversations. And once we get to the point where we're actually just neutral about it, there is somebody picking up litter. There is somebody who's let somebody else in. Or we go, dude, that was fucking awesome. I send you love. I send you love. But we have to work through that. We wouldn't catch me doing that, which is a reflection of our own shadow. Because we are either scared of what life would look like if we live in love, or we are simply protecting the parts of ourselves that are still judgy and still a bit twatty. So yeah, 100%. Maybe it is important because I've seen myself die in nuclear hellfire many, many times. But fuck me, that's a lot of trauma, isn't it? If I've died in nuclear hellfire that
Yeah.
many times, believe me, I have.
Yeah.
Woe is me.
Well, it can be symbolic too, right? It might not actually, one thing that I can speak on for myself, and I've talked about this a million times on the podcast, is, and I think you kind of hit it on the nail. It was your fear package. And for me, like one of the recurring dreams that I've had throughout my life has been about tornadoes, being just afraid of tornadoes and seeing a tornado in the dream, know that, tornadoes represent destruction and, possible loss of life, at least loss of, material things, I guess you could say.
Houses.
Yeah, houses and whatnot. And before I fully woke up, part of my waking up was deciding not to live in fear and anxiety. And so there was actually a shift in my dreams about tornadoes where I wasn't having, being mortified of tornadoes in my dream, like seeing it and, running away from it. It was more allowing it to happen and knowing that I would be, and there's that knowing thing, I guess, just, knowing that you would be okay and all that kind of thing. So I think you did mention that it was like your fear packet of what the nuclear
100%.
thing was.
And I just got me wiggly confirmation that that's really, really important. That this conscious rejection of fear as something that we need to care about is very important, because we, in physical terms, in evolution terms, which again I'm not going to get into, but as mammals, as in terms of the mammalian brain and the body, we haven't developed really at all in, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of years, whatever the timeline is, and I don't know, and it's far beyond my knowledge to guess at that. But my point is, in a long, long time, we have not developed in terms of how the brain works, how signals move through our system, etc., etc., etc. So fear has a place to warn us of impending, terror, negative outcomes, whatever. But the problem with our world is a lot of those physical manifestations of threat have gone. We can spend years living a normal life in the mid-20s, whatever it is, the mid-20s, without ever some sort of genuine physical threat manifesting itself in our life experience. So if that's true, then we don't really need fear, and that's kind of, well, that's up for discussion. And I'd rather the kids had a modicum of it, such that they don't, plunge their hands into boiling pans of water and things of this nature. So it has a purpose, it has a place. But whatever you think of the Bible, there is a reason why fear not appears 365 times in that book. It's because fear is the mind killer. And one of the changes that I have realized in retrospect, or indeed at the time, was that you can refuse to feel something. You can say, no, this isn't for me. Thank you very much. And this is a big thing for both me and anyone else, and certainly people I've worked with, that we assume that we are somehow enslaved to our emotions. We are somehow bound to the outcome of feeling scared or feeling sad or feeling angry. And what people don't realize is emotions are simply energy in motion, that we are absolutely sovereign. And by that, I mean, I don't mean, I'm not talking about refusal to pay council tax or anything like that. I'm talking about we have absolute sovereignty over our frequency. And there are things we can do to interrupt. And we were talking about Chase Hughes before we press record. He is an ex-US Navy. I think he was a navigator. I think he served in naval aviation out of Pearl Harbor. Still a very young man. But he was once rejected by a girl at a nightclub in Hawaii, and decided to understand how the brain worked. And he's turned into the world's most preeminent experts. He's a neuroscientist with a small n. He's not trained by science, but he's very, very, very good. And one of the things that he talks about is that we can interrupt really, really easily if we learn. We don't have to live in fear. And a lot of people will go, I feel sad today. Yeah, okay, fine, feel sad. But do you want to feel sad? Does it benefit you to feel sad? Maybe you want to write a sad song, and it will benefit you to be sad. And I've written songs before, and I'll tell you, you write sad songs when you're happy, and you write happy songs when you're sad. So that dog ain't gonna. But your point is very well said, and speaking to that is always worthwhile in any context. Because if we all realize that we have the conscious ability, if we bring conscious awareness to every moment, if we realize that we are the sovereign observer, that we are the being behind the brain, behind the eyes, behind the feeling, behind the hormones, behind the electricity, and all of that is just kind of really well made biological robotics, then we realize we're in absolute control of everything. And if we're in control of our feelings, then we are in control of our reality, because the universe operates on the mirror principle and it does not judge. So if we're having a shit day and we're unconscious of it, we'll simply get recycled shit back. If we're conscious of it and we change it, give it 3 or 4 hours, and your day will get better, because the universe has gone, oh, okay, fine, the signal has changed. Guys, move it around, move it around, move it around. Get that guy some money. Get that guy a random act of kindness. That guy needs to find a $20 note under his shoe, whatever it is. The universe will listen, the universe will sort it out. And if we can pattern interrupt, as you so rightly say, then we can simply change our reality. Now, a lot of the problem I have with spirituality is that turns into the cult of manifestation. Those guys at Mind Valley, God bless them, spending thousands and millions on these big conventions in LA for entrepreneurs simply to go, your thoughts sorted, you can have lots of money. All right. Yeah, I kind of get it. You'll experience that for a bit. But I'm a big believer in the law of divine compensation, that if you add value to the universe, you'll always get it back. And if money is what you need, then that's what you'll get. If knowledge is what you need, then that's what you'll get. If guidance is what you need, then that's what you'll get. Do you need a teacher? That's what you get. If you add value to the universe, if you're subject to your fellow humans, then you'll always get whatever you need. It's like this massive room of requirement. There was a lot of disclosure in Harry Potter, so much, and great storytelling.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, fear, fear, fear,
Yeah.
fear, fear into
Yeah.
feelings. We're sovereign. We have access to states where we can own our feeling states. And if we can own our feeling states, we can own our reality. And if we can all own our reality, then we can simply build a new timeline. Case in point. So this
Yeah.
Saturday, Sunday actually, the Outlaws came around. My wife's parents came around. My wife and I needed to go shopping, as we do. We live simple lives, so shopping's a big event. We get pastries, we have a car picnic, we absolutely love it. And my parents-in-law said, well, why don't we look after the kids? And we're like, what? Yeah, we'll look after the kids. You go shopping. What, on our own? Oh, we'll have to talk to each other. Ah, interesting. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that. So me and my wife got in the car. We're both kind of sat there in this mystified dream state of not having to deal with someone asking us a question about where where the pigeons come from, or what's that sheep thinking, or whatever, or just, that's not the pigeon, that's my son. So we go to the supermarket, and I'm just in a dream state. I'm absolutely loving it. The energy of the supermarket hasn't changed, which is usually quite fraught and dark and dense, but I'm just floating around. And my wife comes round and starts shouting at me. Why do I have to keep coming back to the basket? She's holding a really heavy looking piece of mince at the time. And I'm like, why are you shouting at me? She's like, well, we need to be out of here. Why do we need to be out of here? We don't have kids. They're being dealt with by somebody else. This is a dream scenario. I'm going to suggest we check ourselves into a spa for the next couple of hours. And she went off, not appreciating the input from me. And it happened again. And I was like, okay, whatever, it's all good. I send you love, especially as I'm married to you. And we got our baked goods, which we sat there eating in our own good time. And I said to her, look, I know you don't like my interventions on spirituality and consciousness, but can I just tell you something? Yeah, go ahead. So we currently live in two competing realities. It's like, what? Yeah, honestly, we live in completely different worlds right now, or at least we were in that supermarket. So what do you mean? So you live in a reality where we have to be quick. You live in a reality where we have to get back to the kids. You live in a reality where everything has to happen to a certain timetable. And if your experience does not match up to that reality that you've preordained and set out for yourselves, you're going to feel negative. You're going to feel slightly under attack. You're going to feel slightly angry. Now, my reality, I'm basically floating around like the dude from the Big Lebowski, not really caring, checking my phone every so often, going very, very slowly and not really caring about what's happening. And she's like, yeah, but I wanted to move fast. I mean, you didn't tell me that. My love, you didn't tell me that. You didn't outline your reality at the beginning of our supermarket experience. And as a consequence, we've had conflict. Now, luckily, that conflict hasn't resulted in someone being shot by a law enforcement officer in Minnesota, or someone being shot again by a law enforcement officer in Minnesota. Because when you look at those two situations, those are different sets of humans who have fundamentally different realities that they're operating under. Now, one of them has been gaslighted. And I feel so sorry for a lot of people in America at the moment with purple hair on signal groups with Antifa. Well, I know they get they're getting paid 80,000 a year to do what they're doing. We shouldn't feel too sorry for them. But when humans die who should not die through misadventure, i.e., putting themselves in stupid situations around train men with guns who shouldn't be shooting people, I'm not saying that, but what we've got is two people or two sets of people living in fundamentally different realities. And those realities aren't solid. Those realities are entirely created by the thoughts in their brains. So what does that tell us? Well, if we can do what you've done, Sarah, and consciously interrupted and said, no, I do not have to feel this, then we can change our reality. The problem is that if we don't know we have that power, then we cannot do that. And we've got generations, and this is cycling through, and those cycles are being broken, which is absolutely fantastic, of people who are either completely in the thrall of a set of humans and whoever their boss is behind them saying you are powerless. Your fellow human is not good as a consequence of what they believe. And if you don't like what they believe, then you can hate them. And let's remember what hatred is. It's literally being offended by somebody's existence. That's what hate is. And that's why when people talk about hate online, they fundamentally misuse that word. Hate is being offended by somebody's existence. And after hate comes genocide. And that's why it's so important that we understand this stuff. Because I may disagree with someone with pink hair in Minnesota putting themselves in a situation stupidly with a firearm where they can be shot by a law enforcement officer. I fundamentally disagree that they deserve to die. No one deserves to die in those circumstances. But we can avoid all this sort of thing if we pattern interrupt consciously and go, I'm in control of my feelings. And if we can all do that at some point, then again, I keep coming back to this. This whole thing ends and right quick if we can all realize we're in control of our feelings. And none of it really matters. That belief systems are simply solid bits where they're just electricity and energy that we make solid and we put into our identity. And once we put it in our identity, to the very death to defend that identity. And there are people who realize this and have hijacked our reality. And that's what all these poor souls in America right now, on one side of a potential civil war, are being subject to. And they don't know. And the other guys don't either. They're operating under the cult of Trump and MAGA, which I happen to think probably net is a good thing. Whether Trump knows that or not, I think he's probably a net good, a chaos agent sent to bring us through into whatever comes next. But we can all short circuit all of that bullshit. If we realize we're in control of our thoughts and feelings, we can interrupt and start creating our own reality.
Yep. Well said. I love that. That's so good. That's
What
why
time is it
we
there, Billy?
really
How tired are you right now?
now I'm actually pretty good. You've like perked me up.
Good. Happy to be of service to you.
I was really concentrating and listening, so all good.
Are you guys running a
That's why
transcript? Because you could put this in AI and we could author a book on what's
Yeah.
coming out of this.
Yeah, sure.
I'll
Let's do
transcript
it.
it later. It's fine.
Yeah.
yeah. So everything you said is pretty much why Sarah and I are so passionate about dreams, because we're bringing different aspects of dreams to people, like having nightmares and sleepwalking. Still haven't figured that one out. And just different aspects of dreaming, because it's trying to understand yourself. And like a lot of people I've talked to, they just say dreams are just dreams, like they're just random, they don't mean anything. I'm like, how can something so important that is like a huge part of your life just be random and not mean anything? So that's why, like, bringing awareness to your dreams can, shine light on the fear that you have in your life. Aspects of yourself, like you say, that you haven't integrated yet as well. So, yeah, I love everything you said. And yeah, I just thought I'd just wrap that up nicely with a
Thank
bow.
you. Well, nothing is random. Nothing can ever be random.
Yeah,
Every
I know.
there's no such thing as a coincidence, and everything has significance, and everything is
Mhm.
put together specifically for you. I mean, one of the problems people have with kind of coming to an understanding of the friendly universe in which we live is a fundamental misconception that about what a divine intelligence can do. A divine intelligence is basically having 6 billion conversations at one time. And our little human brains might go, no, fuck that. No, it's a coincidence. That's a total coincidence. So I'll illustrate this with a very recent and really painful story that I've just gone through. So it was a Saturday night, a couple of weeks before Christmas, and I found a YouTube video about this avatar called Mother Mira, an Indian lady who lives in Frankfurt, kind of possessed of this mother energy, and people come from all around the world to sit with her and receive this energy. And I thought, this is interesting. So I found a YouTube video of her, and she does one every week. Every day. And it's just her meditating. She'll look at the camera, which is ultimately you, because, social media is part of the fabric of the universe, and the algorithms are part of the fabric of the universe, just like everything else, which is why I believe YouTube algorithms and Amazon algorithms are fundamentally not coincidental, even though they were built by the hand of, I don't know, probably some Satanist or other. But, more fool them for helping us wake up. So I sat with this video and I felt completely different. I felt lighter. I felt full of love. I felt full of hope. And I went out into the garden, stared at the sky and thought, that was really cool. Universe, send me a sign. What did I see? I saw a shooting star. That's good. Instant reaction. Send me another one. Another shooting star. Fuck. All right. Send me another one. And another one. Oh, wow. Okay. That's like a 10 sigma event. That's like gold, silver, Bitcoin, and the stock markets all crashing at the same time. That's ridiculous. So I thought, great, that's an indication that things are going to change and change for the better. Well, they were going to change, but not for the fucking better. So I went, I was away for a couple of days the next week, and I was on my way home, and I had to do a task for a friend, which is one of those bizarre 5D spiritual tasks we do on occasion, which is burying a fucking crystal somewhere and saying something stupid. And so I did that. And I had just this funny feeling that I'd done something that had got the attention of somebody, that I was about to receive some, backlash for what I'd done. And I'd done a Facebook Live, and I was talking about the frequency of truth and the idea that lies have to be repeated again and again and again, because the power of a lie is so diminutive when compared to the power of the truth. The truth is a lie, and you let it out and it fights for itself. And in retrospect, I realize now that the universe was looking at me going, haha, if you're going to say it live on Facebook, Ben, you're going to have to live it. You're going to have to live it. So I got home, and as a backstory, a long time ago, I made some financial decisions, which were bad financial decisions, never motivated by greed or avarice, mainly stupidity. And these financial decisions led to me having an amount of personal debt, which I'd never told my dear wife about. And lies in a marriage never work. They're always found out, and it's always spectacular. And I got home, and there was a letter from a well-known credit card company. Now, usually I just style it out. I go, yeah, don't chuck it in the bin. I make a big thing of putting it in the fire or whatever. I'm not worried about that, because that's the kind of person I've become when dealing with this particular issue. But instead, I couldn't. I took this letter. I went out to the office. I started acting really shifty, and walked in. And my wife walked up to me and said, "What's going on?" And for whatever reason, I couldn't lie at that particular point. I said, "Okay, we're in a large amount of debt. I've not told you. I'm sorry." I was like, and as soon as the word came out of my mouth, I was like, what the fuck did I just say that for? That was stupid, Ben. Within half an hour, she's walked out with the kids. I'm like, okay, that's a perfectly reasonable reaction to what I've just told her. That's fine. So I did what I always do in these circumstances. I cleaned the house from top to bottom. I did 3 loads of washing. And sat there, and I phoned my buddy whose podcast I was going on the next morning. I said, look, I'm still going to do the podcast because universe is obviously testing me in some way, but just ask me lots of questions instead of relying on me to come up with anything, because I'm in the pits right now. Then I called my dad and said, Dad, I think I'm going to have to come and live with you for a while. He was like, don't worry, son, come on over. So I got up the next morning, and I was sat there, feet over, feet off the bed. I thought, right, what's the best outcome I can get from this? Fuck it, I may as well look at this positively. And I manifested all the debt just disappearing. Right, going to get my wife back, going to get my kids back. I'm going to come out of this debt-free. Fuck it, why not? Did the podcast interview. That went quite well. Wife came home, had a massive argument, left for my father's. And I got there, and I sat down with my father and told him what had been going on. And he said, listen, don't worry about it. I was like, what do you mean don't worry about it? I've lied to my wife. I've been carrying this debt. He said, Ben, you've got 2 kids. You've got several businesses. You're a different man. You've got a house and all this kind of stuff. Just don't worry about it. In fact, fuck it. I'll pay it all off. How much is it? And I told him. He said, all right, I'll pay that off. Because Nana, my guardian angel, had just died. He got a load of money. I was like, oh, what? You're going to pay it off? Like, yeah, I'll pay it off. Like, right, okay. So we got fish and chips. I went for a walk. Next day, I had to go back to the house to run some errands. I sat there with my wife and said, look, I'm so sorry. I've been an absolute dick. And I'll do whatever it takes to kind of get back in your good books. And she went, right, first thing, you've got to demand your father pays off the debt. I was like, he's already offered and it's done. Like, what? Like, she's already offered and it's done. What, so we're debt-free? It's like, well, not totally debt-free, but we're in a great financial position. She's like, all right, next, if you do it again, I'm taking the house. I'm like, fuck it, why not? All right, have the house. I don't care. I just want my family back. She was like, okay, I'm still unhappy with you, but you can come home tomorrow. So I took our daughter to see some Christmas lights. I got home, went back to my father's, came back the next morning. It's not been easy. These things aren't ever easy when you recover from something like that. But it was horrible. It was one of the worst experiences of my entire life. But what have I gained from it? And I'm not talking about the money. I'm talking about I've gained truth and transparency and honesty in my marriage. I'm no longer carrying around this thing. I no longer have to live 2 lives simultaneously. And she's actually pretty impressed that I managed to pay off that debt and still pay for everything that the family required for a minute to live. There's a military helicopter going over, Sarah. We're obviously telling a bit too much truth right now. So the universe will always put in train a set of events that get you to where you need to be. And apparently I needed to be in a position where I was looking at my shadow and going, do you know what? You fucking lied to your wife. And you've got a problem with authenticity. And if you're going to hold yourself out as some sort of fucking leader, Hawks, you're going to have to deal with that. You're going to have to deal with that in the most painful way possible by having the things you rate and you love the dearest taken away from you, to be given a glimpse of what life can be like if you live in lies. Okay, well, I've lived there now, and I've come back now, and I've learnt my lesson, and all will be well. As I say, healing is a process. All will be well. So whatever we need, universe will bring to us. Whatever we need to be taught, universe will bring to us. And if the world wanted us to learn courage, it wouldn't just give us courage. It would give us the situations and events such that we would develop it ourselves. If it needed us to be authentic and live in absolute truth, it will send us the situation and events such that we do not have a choice. And that's ultimately what we're all being shown now. We are all being shown the well, what is the Epstein files right now? Is it disclosure? Is it a kind of event to get us looking the other way while the US financial system is detonated? Whatever, I don't know. But what it is absolutely giving people is a glimpse into the depravity of those who would rule over us and what they're really like. And we're all going to have to look at it and go, I can't ignore this anymore. I can't ignore this shadow anymore. We'll have to do it with ourselves. You know, a lot of us are going to have to face up to the idea that we had our children vaccinated. You know, our daughter was vaccinated twice. Now I think about it, the shame, the guilt, but I'll have to get over that. And there's going to be loads of people who have had their kids vaccinated with a COVID vaccine, you know, a depopulation weapon, a gene editing bioweapon that turned our human bodies into biological weapons factories. And we did that to our kids. And a lot of people would choose to exit the simulation as a consequence of that. But more will, the only radical, I suppose, the only sensible reaction to something like that is to turn to God and say, I have nothing left. Show me the way. And that will be the change for a lot of people. And from that pain, from that torture, from that horrible dark denseness will come salvation and light and love and forgiveness. And that's okay. So, whatever you're going through right now, dear listener, however bad you think it is, you are going through a process of discovery. You're going through a process of learning. You're going through a process of being shown parts of yourself that you did not want to look at, but you're going to have to. But the good news is the minute you give it love, it will heal, because love heals literally everything. And if it doesn't work, all you do is turn up the dose. That's not medical advice, but fuck it. Yeah, it is. Love heals all. If it doesn't work, turn up the dose. Now throw away your doctor's number. You won't need it anymore.
Perfect. Love that. Yeah, well, I pretty much like if I have any issues or problems I need to solve, I actually use my dreams and I like put the intention out there to play it out in my dream.
Yeah.
Not always so, but it will play out in your life some way, as you say.
Mm.
And it's I suppose not being scared or worried about what's going to be presented, but be just prepare yourself for what you need to do. And I think that's the most important thing is just be yourself. And I just got lost my train of thought.
No, neutrality. No, you were really close, but then the fact that it's about 2 a.m. in your country came out there. But it's about neutrality and looking at
Yeah,
things with that dispassionate focus, with absolute lack of fear. And
yeah,
going, do you know what? This is a part of me. I'm not going to judge that. And that helps us with us and our healing. And I think that's a great point. The dreams are there to kind of play things out. This idea of, Scrooge being shown by the ghost of Christmas past, present, and future. This is what's going to happen if you don't change your ways. While dreams are going, this is what's going to happen if you do this. Isn't this fantastic? If you don't do your shadow work, this is how it could be, etc., etc. And all of these mechanics that allow us to sit and look and understand and sit in non-judgment and neutrality, those are fundamentally fantastic devices to help us and us all with what's required, which is remembering and move away from forgetfulness. And this helps us in all sorts of contexts. This will help us when looking at events. This will help us when looking at our own lives. If we sit in neutrality and non-judgment on ourselves and others, then we'll simply get the job done. We will get the job done. We'll all move on from this into the 5D reality where we can talk to each other with our thoughts, and where these I read a book about 5D living where we all wear these kind of brightly colored jumpsuits and don't eat meat. I was like, fuck, no, that's not a fifth dimension I have any interest in whatsoever. Oh, what's her name? Diane Cooper. That's a book by Diane Cooper, Living in 5D, I think it's called. And it's funny because I know people who know her very well, people I respect, and I'm like, dude, I'm not on board with that. I'm not wearing a jumpsuit for fucking anybody. No, 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 no. And I don't care if people judge me for that. That's fine. I'm allowed some peccadillos.
Um, I really appreciate you coming on to the podcast, Ben. It's been absolutely awesome hearing you talk and share all your wisdom and experiences.
I'll go with experiences. I'm not sure I'd go so far as wisdom.
Well,
and I appreciate you asking me. Thank
you. No, you're welcome.
It's wisdom. It's wisdom.
Yeah. If
well,
I
I suppose knowledge turned into actionable devices, tools, that is wisdom. And I suppose that's the definition of wisdom. We can all have insight and knowledge. That's all. I mean, all of this is open to it. But when you take knowledge and you turn it into something that you can use as a tool to affect change and good, then yeah, that becomes wisdom. But it doesn't mean I'm Gandalf, is my point, I suppose.
Yeah.
Or Dumbledore.
There's as you mentioned before, there are different we're all on the same journey, but we're at different positions, and you don't have to be a Gandalf or a Dumbledore to have some wisdom to help somebody else. I guess is kind
100%.
of where I'm going with that.
We all have our part to play.
Absolutely. I did have one little question or topic that I just wanted to talk about briefly, and then we'll probably be wrapping up pretty shortly, I would imagine. Plus, my little one is now awake, luckily being very, very content, but she's awake. So, as you know, with having kids, they can be content, and then 30 seconds later, it can be the complete opposite. So
yeah, World War III.
Yeah, pretty much. I just wanted to comment on when you're talking about going through the supermarket. I know that was like way back, but you used the phrase like you were in like this mystified, dreamlike state, just like kind of living in a dream. I think is kind of where you were going with that, and that resonates with me in some of the concepts that we've talked about on this podcast before, where we say there's not really any. Well, first off, dreams are you accessing, other areas of yourself, other versions of yourself in different timelines, different dimensions, whatever it may be. And that also there is no separation between your waking state and your sleep state, and that everything,
good point,
that basically life is a dream. Is kind of a theme that has come up in our podcast. And I don't know if you have any comments you wanted to bring on that, but I just wanted to point out that you had used the phrase you were in a dreamlike state.
More about dreams than I thought I did. Yeah, it's a really good point, and it comes back to this idea that we are not in charge of our own experiences within this materium simulation, etc., etc. And to a certain extent, we're not. We're not in charge of the big events. We're not in charge of who lives, who dies, and all that kind of stuff. But we are in charge of the state of consciousness and awareness that we bring to events. We are in control of our feeling states. And in that way, a dream is no different than our waking reality, because it's all the same thing. It's all part of the same experience. It's just one of them, we are not moving through reality, piloting this vehicle that we call a body. That's our waking hours. But in another, when all of the programs have been disengaged, and we're not experiencing reality through bias, through matrix fear program, through anxiety program, to poverty program, etc., etc., we almost get a purer experience, and we can do anything that we want to do, and can do. We can experience reality with our I don't know, with all of our power-ups, as it were. And we can test out different experiences. So yeah, 100%. We start putting limitations on our abilities, on outcomes, on waking dreams and non-waking dreams, on the quality of our experience, when we buy into the fact that we are somehow imperfect or fallen or limited. And let's remember, the Matrix's job is to continually recycle the idea that we are limited, we are imperfect, we are fallen. And I use fallen specifically because that's an idea within religion, within the Christian religion, that we are fallen, that we have a debt that we have to somehow spend our lives paying back. The programming runs really, 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 really deep. But when we get rid of those programs, then we start to realize we can fly. Maybe we do actually fly. I've never had that dream. That scares the fuck out of me.
Oh, it's amazing. And I'm glad that you brought it up. Obviously, you're meant
Do you have to put
to
your arms out, or do you just kind of?
uh, I'm trying to think because I've experienced flying dreams and what I call gliding dreams.
Okay.
So full on flying, like I don't know if my arms are out actually, just thinking
Do you
about
have
it.
an engine on your back?
No, it's just my essence, I guess. I don't know.
Nice.
It's kind of hard to say because oh my goodness, there's so many avenues with this. One thing we talk about are um the perspective that you have a dream in. So whether you're like observing what yourself in a dream, or it's, first person or third person.
Mm.
And my dream experiences are almost always like just as I'm existing in this reality
Yeah.
currently. It's just
Call
going
of
through
Duty 2 first person shooter type thing.
yeah, exactly. And so
Billy knows what
when
I'm
I'm
talking about.
dreaming, I'm not actually aware of like, are my arms out or not? Because I'm just like, I just know that I'm flying and gliding through
Yeah.
the air. And then gliding dreams, in those are really interesting because it's like I'm standing up, but I'm just like hovering just a little bit above the ground, and I'm just like not walking, but I'm just gliding uh,
Well,
across.
like in the
So
supermarket or something like that.
yeah, where usually it's in my house or something like that.
Oh, okay. You're not
Yeah,
like, oh, I need that gravy. I can't quite. Oh,
so
now I
just
can.
hover up and get it. Yeah.
Nice.
No, it's and I'm not exactly sure why I have those, other than the fact that I know that I enjoy them. And there's once that with one of the flying dreams, I had actually put the intention before I went to bed, like tonight I want to experience flying in a dream, and it came forward, just like how you're talking about the shooting stars, which is absolutely amazing that you had 3 shooting stars in a row
Ridiculous.
just by simply asking the universe for a sign. So that's something that Biljana and I talk a lot about with dreams, is how important your intention is. And that was your intention with having this, not necessarily seeing a shooting star, but you wanted us, your intention was, universe, give me a sign. It gave you
Yeah.
a sign. With your dreams, if you have an intention to, if there's something about yourself that you want to work on and you're not sure what that is, you can set the intention with your dreams before you go to bed to be like, okay, what is it that I need to work on now? Or show me, the next thing that I need to discover
Mm.
about myself, or whatever it may be. And you can set that intention before you go to bed, and be amazed at what
I'm
comes through in
definitely
the
going to
dream
try
state.
that because at the moment it's just I set the intention, just sleep through the fucking night.
Yeah.
Perhaps I'm limiting myself somewhat. I tell you this though, after that whole experience that I just went through in a gruesome detail, I realized I hadn't seen a white feather for months. I hadn't seen one for months. And we're all taught that a white feather is an indication from the universe that you're on the right track. So obviously I've been floundering for like 6 months, and I saw three in one day. And one of them was like I was in the car going 30, and this white feather just fell in front of me. It was like it had gone out of its way to show itself to me. I was like, okay, thank God, back on track. Happy days. So yeah, dear listener, if you see a white feather today, just think about what you've been doing that day, because you are truly on the right track. But let's be honest with each other. Whatever's going on, whether it's good, bad, indifferent, you're always on the right track because everything's perfect. But perfection does not mean fun. It does not mean fun. If you look at my TikTok, you'll see a video which is me basically holding back the tears, sat here, going, whatever your life experience is, it's perfect. Whether it's good or bad, it's perfect, because it's all here for you, and it's all here to get you where you need to go. So yeah, if you're going through shit, then you're just meant to learn something and be open to it and don't judge it.
True. But coming back to your sovereignty in a universe sense and being able to dictate your reality, you can also dictate how you want to experience things. And
Exactly this
you don't,
neutrality.
yeah, you don't have to experience it in the most, you said that it doesn't necessarily mean that it's fun, but you can actually define to the universe that you want it to be fun.
Yeah, 100%, or at the very least beneficial.
Yeah.
This is the Eckhart Tolle argument, and it's a good one, that suffering comes from the perspective we bring on events through our thoughts. Suffering comes from our thoughts. And if we go through something bad and we say, I am suffering, what's going to happen? Well, we're going to suffer. But if we go through resistance, which is an entirely different way of characterizing and bringing perspective to it, we can enjoy it in the same way that we might enjoy climbing a mountain or a half marathon, or pushing through and doing 12 press ups instead of 10, which for me right now feels completely off the charts. But yeah, 100%, we are sovereign, and we can dictate how we feel about events, what perspective we bring to events. We just sometimes can't dictate the events, because the events are being controlled by a field which knows everything that is, was, and ever will be, and it is creating the universe for us such that we will become what's required of us, which at the moment, basically warriors.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Biljana,
Lovely.
do you have any final thoughts?
I don't think I need to. I think everything that just Ben said was perfect. And I just want to say thank you very much. I think since I met you, you've kind of been I said, like what do you call it? Like, you've been just sitting on my shoulder, just giving me that, word of encouragement. Even though I haven't seen you or spoken to you for a while, like it's yeah. So I just want to say thank you for pushing me when we first met, and yeah, and doing what I'm doing now. I wouldn't be doing this if I haven't met you, and having all these experiences. So I'm not saying you're special.
And why would you? And you're very welcome. And all a good coach does is make it clear to someone
Yeah,
exactly what they're capable of. So
yeah,
thank you, but I don't need to be thanked, because all you've done is realised what capacity
yeah,
you have for achievement and brilliance. And that goes for the both of you.
yeah. So thank you. But you are special. I'm joking.
No, so are you. We all are.
No,
That's the
yeah.
point.
Yeah,
We all are.
absolutely.
But conversely, we're not.
I wanted to
Yeah,
just comment, Biljana, how you said how you feel that Ben is like right here, just having a little voice for you. It just threw me back to the first couple of episodes that we did together for this podcast, and how, Ben, your name actually came up several times throughout our earlier episodes. Like, oh, that's something Ben would say, or something along those lines. So,
Was it
yeah.
a curse word?
No, well, no, I don't think so.
Oh, that's good.
I'd have to go back and listen to them to remember in what capacity, but I just know that you've been mentioned on this podcast in the early days, and we're just very honored that we finally were able to, like I said, the stars aligned. I guess all those shooting stars aligned for us.
Oh, that was good. That was good. That was podcast gold. Well done, Greenie.
For you to be here today, and we're very happy and very thankful, and I'm very, very happy with the theme of how today's podcast went, or episode went, because as always, we don't really do any prep work. We just trust in the universe that the conversation will be exactly as it needs to be, and I'm very confident that today was a success.
Very good. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for inviting me on.
Absolutely. Do you have any final words, Ben? Although you have said a lot today, but
if I may, given I am a rampant self-publicist, if I may say that if anyone's interested in what I've said, how I've said it, and how that can lead to helping you on your journey, myself and Michael, the co-author of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Great Awakening, which, yes, is available on Amazon, for £8.88. And yes, we've done it as an angel number because we're just spiritual twats. If you want to find out more about what I'm doing, you can go to the Awaken Life community, which you can find out more about at www.awakencoaching.life, I think it is. And I can be found on TikTok and Facebook. And I don't remember what those profiles are, so I'll give them to you guys so you can link it. But I talk into the camera almost every day. It's usually insufferably drivelish, but sometimes you might get something from it. But yeah.
No, definitely. I appreciate your shorts on Instagram for sure.
Good. Then they're worth it, and I'll continue.
Yeah.
Yes.
Any final words for our listeners?
No, just remember who you are, and who you are as the spark of the divine, sat within a soul, in a human body, and you're moving around this materium, this reality, this simulation, this matrix, whatever you want to call it, and you've come here for a reason. Never feel insignificant because you're not insignificant. Never feel like you are fighting against the tide for no reason, because you're fighting against the tide because that's exactly what you're meant to do. And never feel lonely because you're a soul extension within a soul that there's fucking 12 of you in there. And there are, I think, 144 of them in a monad. So yeah, we're getting into some spiritual woo stuff. But what's my point? My point is never feel insignificant because you're not. You're perfect. And never feel alone because you're never alone. And if you ever need anyone just to say, dude, do that, it's going to be okay, you can find my email on the website. Come and say hello.
Wonderful. Awesome. Thank you again, Ben, for coming on to our podcast and being the first guest of 2026. A lot more to come.
The Gregorian New Year, which we all know is a false matrix New Year, and the real New Year starts on the 1st of April. My birthday.
Oh, I didn't know your birthday was April 1st. Cool.
I am an April Fool.
Yeah. Oh my. Thank you again, Ben,
You're very welcome.
for coming on today. And thank you to our listeners. This podcast doesn't happen without you. We are all so very happy that you support us and follow us. If you want to know more about Dream Oracle for You, you can check out our website at dreamoracleforyou.com. That is the number 4 and the letter U. We will be offering a dream course at some point this year, to be determined. And of course, there's lots more to come with both guests and other things, projects that Biljana and I are working on with Dream Oracle for You. So once again, dear listeners, thank you. Thank you, Ben, for being here. Thank you to Biljana, my wonderful co-host. So great to be back in the swing of things with our episodes. I definitely have missed recording with you. And with that, as always, everyone, please just keep on dreaming.